Clarissa Beaufort sat silently on a marble path, her designer wheelchair the only thing that still looked expensive about her. Once the head of a luxury fashion empire in London, she now wandered parks just to feel something, anything. Before we begin, let us know where you're watching from. We love seeing how far these stories travel. Clarissa Beaufort sat motionless beneath an ancient oak tree, her wheelchair positioned like a monument, regal, distant, untouchable. Once the icon of London's fashion scene, she now haunted public parks in silence. Her long coat, designer-made, hung loosely on her frame. Wind rustled through golden leaves, brushing strands of hair across her pale cheeks, but she didn't flinch. Her legs hadn't moved in 5 years. Neither had her hope. Children laughed in the distance. A couple jogged past. But Clarissa remained still, staring blankly at a small pond that reflected nothing but clouds. No one spoke to her. They rarely did. But that day something changed. A barefoot child in tattered leggings approached, not cautiously, not nervously, but like she belonged in Clarissa's orbit. She stopped just feet away, smiling. "You look sad," the girl said quietly. Clarissa looked up, startled by the voice, and by the strange warmth it carried. Clarissa blinked. The child looked no older than 7, her face smudged, her hair tangled by wind. Her jacket was too small and one elbow torn. She wore no shoes. Yet the girl stood like someone who had never known fear. "You shouldn't talk to strangers," Clarissa muttered, trying to sound indifferent. "I don't believe in strangers," the girl replied softly. "Only people who haven't smiled yet." Clarissa raised an eyebrow, unsure whether to laugh or scold. "What's your name?" "Lila." "And what do you want, Lila?" The girl stepped forward, her tone calm, confident, as if she were offering tea. "I can help you walk again." Clarissa almost laughed. Bitterness rose in her throat. People had tried. Therapists, doctors, even faith healers. None succeeded. But Lila didn't flinch. Her small hands were folded, and her eyes held no doubt. "I'm serious," she added. "I know things. Just come tomorrow." Clarissa watched her with quiet disbelief. No child had spoken to her like this in years, maybe ever. "You think you know more than surgeons," she said dryly. Lila shrugged, still smiling. "Sometimes people need something stronger than surgery." "And what's that?" "Belief." Clarissa scoffed. Belief had abandoned her the day a drunk driver did more damage than any doctor could reverse. But Lila wasn't preaching. She wasn't pretending to be magical either. Her words weren't rehearsed. They felt true. "You're not just a kid from the park, are you?" Clarissa asked. "I'm just Lila," the girl replied. "But I see people different. Like when their legs want to wake up, but forgot how." Clarissa didn't respond. She couldn't. She simply stared, unsure whether to feel insulted or intrigued. Lila gave one last smile before skipping off. "Tomorrow," she said, "I'll be here." And somehow, Clarissa knew she would be. Clarissa once stood at the top of everything, adored on magazine covers, envied across boardrooms. She built her brand from nothing, launched trends from scratch. Her heels echoed through Paris runways like thunder. But that power was stolen in one brutal second. A crash, a hospital bed, a surgeon's sigh. Permanent, they had said. Spinal damage. The cameras disappeared. Her firm replaced her. Friends faded. Now she sat in silence, far from gala lights, wearing her brokenness like an old perfume no one noticed anymore. People told her to be strong, to fight. But no one told her how to live with silence in her legs. That's why Lila's words hit harder than they should have. Not because Clarissa believed them, but because, for the first time in years, she wanted to. The next morning, Clarissa wheeled herself to the same bench, unsure why she'd bothered. She told herself it was just curiosity, a distraction. But when Lila reappeared, hair even wilder than before, Clarissa felt her chest tighten. "You came," Lila beamed. "Let's get one thing clear," Clarissa said. "If you're scamming people, I'm not the one to mess with." Lila giggled. "Not a scam. It's a promise." Clarissa hesitated, her voice quieter. "What do I need to do?" "Let me help. But you have to believe, even just a little." Clarissa folded her arms. She didn't believe in miracles anymore. But the girl had shown up. And so had she. That counted for something. 1 week. Clarissa finally said, "You get 1 week. Then I decide what to believe." Lila nodded solemnly. "Deal." And just like that, a contract between Broken and Brave was made. The next morning, Clarissa found herself arriving early. The park felt different now, not quieter, but expectant. Wind swept the grass like whispers, and sunlight trickled through bare branches. She positioned herself beneath the same tree, pretending not to look around. Lila came running, her feet still bare despite the chill. She carried a folded napkin with 2 crushed biscuits inside. "Breakfast," she said, offering one. Clarissa almost smiled. Then, without ceremony, Lila kneeled beside her and placed both hands gently on Clarissa's knees. No chant, no drama, just warmth. "What are you doing?" Clarissa asked. "Reminding your legs they still belong to you." Clarissa wanted to protest, to call it nonsense, but her throat closed. Lila's hands were soft, but her presence felt heavy, as if she carried something ancient and kind. She didn't believe. Not yet. But she didn't pull away either. Clarissa had known touch, too much of it. Doctors, nurses, therapists, hands that examined, probed, poked. None of it felt human anymore. It felt like being handled, not held. But Lila's hands didn't ask questions. They didn't assess. They simply stayed. Warm palms resting on her knees, as if telling them a bedtime story only they could hear. Clarissa closed her eyes, unsure why her chest ached more than her legs. "It's not about fixing," Lila whispered. "It's about remembering." "Remembering what?" "That you're whole." Clarissa opened her eyes slowly. Her breath caught in her throat. The girl wasn't healing her with science. She was healing something far deeper, the belief that she was still worth healing. The session ended in silence, but Clarissa felt different. Not physically, not yet, but inside, something had softened. Lila waved goodbye without asking for anything, and Clarissa found herself waiting for tomorrow. That night, Clarissa lay in bed wide awake. Her hands rested on her legs, fingers searching for something, anything. A twitch, a tingle, a whisper. She stared at the ceiling, her heart racing. Maybe it was silly. Maybe Lila had planted foolish hope in her. But then, just once, her right toe tingled. Not pain, not pressure, just a subtle electric flicker. So faint she questioned it. Clarissa shot upright, wide-eyed, reaching for her phone. But who would she tell? She didn't want false hope. Still, something had happened. Something undeniable. And for the first time in years, Clarissa wanted to keep trying. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was a trick of the mind. But even the idea that her body could respond again lit fire in her chest. Tomorrow she'd tell Lila. She needed to know. Because now Clarissa wanted more. The next day, Clarissa rolled herself into the park. No assistant, no help. For the first time, she wanted to feel the effort in her arms, the drag of the wheels, the sting of cold air. Lila was already there, sitting on the grass with her eyes closed, humming softly to a dandelion. She opened them and smiled before Clarissa even spoke. Something changed, didn't it? Clarissa hesitated. Maybe. A flicker. Lila grinned. That's how it starts. A whisper before the song. They began again. Palms on knees, stillness like prayer. Clarissa didn't ask how it worked. She didn't need logic. She needed this. When it ended, she didn't feel cured, but she felt lighter. As she turned to go, she looked back at Lila. "Why me?" she asked. Lila simply said, "Because you're not finished yet." And Clarissa didn't disagree. Clarissa became curious. Who was this girl who healed with her hands and spoke like an old soul? She asked around vendors, gardeners, cafe workers. No one knew a Lila. That evening, Clarissa followed her from a distance. Lila walked beyond the park, through alleys, to the rear of an old chapel. Inside, Clarissa peeked through cracked wooden doors. A small blanket lay in the back pew. A crumpled water bottle. A worn teddy bear. Clarissa's throat tightened. This child who gave hope had no home. Later, she returned with food and a fresh blanket, leaving them quietly by the door. When Lila saw them the next day, she smiled but said nothing. Clarissa reached out. "Let me help you now." Lila shook her head. "Not yet. You're still healing." Clarissa didn't argue. Somehow, she knew the child was right. Lila wasn't just changing her legs. She was rebuilding her soul. Clarissa returned to the chapel alone. She stepped carefully past broken stones, her wheelchair bumping softly along the cracked path. Inside, silence hung thick. She placed a paper bag on the pew, a fresh sandwich, a scarf, a small notebook. Her eyes settled on a child's drawing pinned to the pulpit. 2 stick figures, one in a wheelchair, the other holding her hand. Clarissa smiled. For years, she'd been surrounded by assistants, therapists, experts, but none had drawn her like that. On the way out, she whispered into the stillness, "Thank you." She didn't expect a reply, but the next day, Lila was waiting again, and when she saw Clarissa, she didn't ask for anything. She just whispered, "It's almost time." Clarissa didn't know what that meant, but her heart raced to the sound of it. At home, Clarissa rolled to her floor-length mirror, the one she'd avoided for years. She stared at her reflection. No makeup, loose hair, thin legs. She placed her hands on her thighs, willing herself to feel something. Then her toe twitched again, this time clearer. "Real," she gasped. "It's not in my head." She tried again, both legs. A pulse. A response. Nothing dramatic, but movement all the same. Her breath caught. The mirror didn't show a miracle. It showed proof. The next morning, she messaged her old physical therapist. "I'd like to try again." He called within the hour, stunned. "Are you sure?" Clarissa's voice was steady. "Yes, I have help now." She didn't say it was a child. Didn't need to. All she knew was something had awakened. Clarissa wheeled into the rehab center and was met with stunned faces. Staff who hadn't seen her in years greeted her like a ghost. Her therapist, Daniel, raised his eyebrows. "This is unexpected." Clarissa shrugged. "Turns out I'm not done yet." They ran nerve tests, gently pressed reflex points, checked for patterns. Daniel frowned, not with concern, but astonishment. "Your spinal signal isn't gone. It's faint, but it's there." Clarissa gripped the seat, blinking back emotion. "So I wasn't imagining it." He shook his head. "No, it's weak, but you've got something to build on." Clarissa nodded slowly. "Then let's start rebuilding." In her mind, she could still feel Lila's warm hands. Not magic, not medicine, just something deeper, permission to try again. And now she was ready. Clarissa's days began to change. She built a routine around healing, not just her body, but her life. Mornings were spent in therapy, pushing, stretching, repeating painful motions. Afternoons brought her back to the park, always under the same tree. Lila would meet her there, never asking for updates, never bragging. She simply placed her hands on Clarissa's knees and hummed quietly. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they didn't. One afternoon, Clarissa asked, "Where did you learn to do this?" Lila just smiled. "I didn't. I remembered." Clarissa didn't press. Somehow it made sense. The girl who slept in chapels had become the compass in Clarissa's new life. Each day, her legs responded more, and slowly, belief replaced fear. Clarissa arrived at the park with a box. Inside, a pair of new pink sneakers. Simple but warm and sturdy. Lila's eyes lit up as she opened them. "For me?" Clarissa nodded. "They're not fancy, but they'll protect you." Lila stared at the shoes, then at her bare feet. "I like the ground, but maybe it's time to try something new." She slipped them on, wiggling her toes. "Feels like clouds." Clarissa smiled, watching the girl twirl in delight. For once, she wasn't the one receiving. She had given comfort, even if only a small gesture. It felt good. Healing wasn't just movement, it was giving. And for Clarissa, this gift was more powerful than any runway she'd ever walked. It happened at home, quietly. Clarissa was practicing leg lifts beside her bed when she felt something shift. A tremor, a surge, a memory. She grabbed the dresser, braced her weight, and slowly, shakily stood. Only for 5 seconds. Then she collapsed back into her chair. But she laughed. Out loud. She screamed into the ceiling, grinning through tears. She stood. No audience. No applause. But she had done it. She sent a message to her therapist. Progress. I stood. Then she whispered to herself, "Lila, wherever you are, you did this." For the first time in 5 years, she believed in tomorrow. The next day, Clarissa came early, waited longer. But Lila didn't come, nor the next day, nor the next. She checked the chapel. Empty. The blanket and teddy bear were gone. No one had seen a child like her. No name, no records. Clarissa left a letter on the pew. "Thank you, little healer. You were never just a dream." And still no reply. She knew Lila hadn't disappeared. She'd simply gone where she was needed next. Clarissa felt her absence deeply, but her presence even deeper. Lila's work here was done. 6 months later, Clarissa walked onto a charity stage, slowly but confidently. She held a cane, but not for weakness, for balance. She was no longer the woman in the shadows. She was rebuilding. She spoke about recovery, about shame, about grace. And then she told them about Lila. About hands that healed without medicine. About faith offered by a child with nothing. The audience wept. Some stood in silence. Clarissa didn't ask for pity. She offered a story. Proof that even the most broken lives can be rewoven with one act of kindness. Clarissa created a small foundation, not for spinal research, but for overlooked children. She called it Lila's Light. It offered shoes, meals, art supplies, simple gifts for children who slipped through the cracks. In every package, a note read, "Don't forget, you're still whole." Each week, she visited shelters, always asking, "Have you seen her?" Some said yes, some no, some simply smiled. But Clarissa didn't need confirmation anymore. She felt Lila in every hand she held, every smile she mended. The child may be gone, but the light she left never dimmed. Years later, Clarissa returned to that same bench beneath the oak tree. Autumn leaves danced around her feet. Her cane leaned beside her. She reached into her coat to find a book, but instead found a folded note. Her breath caught. She opened it slowly. Scrawled in familiar handwriting. Told you they'd wake up. Love, Lila. Tears slipped silently down her cheeks. No fanfare. No footprints. Just a message. Proof that some angels don't fly. They walk barefoot and vanish when the soul is healed. Clarissa closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you." Then she stood, tall, steady, whole. Some people leave footprints. Others leave you walking where you never thought you could. Clarissa didn't find her miracle in the hospital. She found it in the hands of a child who asked for nothing and gave everything. If this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe for more true stories that show how even the smallest soul can spark the biggest change. Do you believe some people are sent to us for a reason? Have you ever met someone who changed your life in a way they never knew? And if you could leave one note behind for someone, what would it say? Let us know in the comments. We're listening.